Today we're going to see how we can install Windows Server 2025 in Red Hat OpenShift Virtualization. We're going to start using a OpenShift cluster that has already been pre-built, running OpenShift 4.17 and OpenShift Virtualization. We'll go ahead and log into the cluster. And from the cluster console, we're going to go ahead and go to Virtualization and then Virtual Machines. We'll go ahead and we'll select a project. We're going to call this WinSRV25. You can use whatever project name you want. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to click Create Virtual Machine. We'll do From Template. Scroll through the list of templates and find the type of Windows server you want to install and select that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to boot from CD. This assumes that you have a Windows Server 2025 available. So go ahead and download that before you start this process. We'll go ahead and select and upload that as a new PVC. And we're going to set the disk size to 7 gig because that should be big enough to hold on to the CD that we downloaded from Microsoft. From here, we're going to go ahead, we're going to change the server name. We're just going to call it Windows Server 25 Initial Build and go ahead and click Quick Create Image. At this point, the CD that you uploaded will start uploading. You can see the progress here. This process can take some time depending on your network environment as well as the storage that you're using. We'll go ahead and we'll let this complete and then we'll move on to the next steps. Once the upload hits 100%, you'll see it say success and go green, and then your virtual machine will start to boot. Again, this process can take a minute or two, depending on your environment and your storage. But after a short amount of time, we should see the virtual machine go to starting, and then we will be able to open the web console and actually access the environment and access the console for this VM to see it start up. We'll go ahead and select Open Web Console, and of course we will press the Any key in order to boot from the CD install image. At this point, Windows will load all of its install files. We'll wait for that to complete. And then we'll go ahead and we'll select the options. Now, if you're not installing Windows 2025, you may see slightly different screens here, but the install process we're going to go over here works for any of the modern Windows server or Windows OSes. That includes things like Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows Server 2022, and Windows Server 2025. We'll go ahead and select the desktop experience so that this process makes a little bit more sense when we go into some of the next steps. Go through the standard options to select things. We're going to use the default disk that it selects, click Next, and now Windows will go ahead and install. We'll wait for this to complete. The server will reboot. Windows will continue its install process. And now we can go ahead and we can put in our password for the administrator account. And now we can log into the installed VM. It doesn't show it here, but if you're looking for the Control-Alt-Delete key and you're on the console, just make sure that you select the drop-down and there is a send Control-Alt-Delete so that you're not sending that to your local machine. We'll go ahead and get logged in here as administrator, and we'll start doing some of the customization that's required post-install. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to install the QEMU guest agent. So go ahead, we can open up your File Explorer, select the CD drive that's called VirtIO, and once you've selected that, go in and select the directory called guest agent, and then select the proper guest agent install command. Once you double click on that, the install will complete. Once the window goes away, the QEMU agent is done, and now we can go ahead and we can actually install the additional drivers that are required for a few additional devices that get installed by OpenShift Virt. So go ahead and click the Windows icon and type in Device Manager to start up the Device Manager. And once it comes up, we'll see 3 different devices that have yellow triangles next to them, meaning that they don't have a driver. Right click on one of the devices and we'll select Update Driver. Make sure that you click Browse My Computer for drivers and then click the Browse button. And if you scroll down, we'll again see a CD drive called VirtIO Win. Select that drive. Make sure that you select the root, so don't drill into any of the directories. Click OK and click Next. Make sure that Include Subfolders is also selected. By doing this, Windows will search through the entire drivers of everything that's on that disk, find the appropriate driver, and install it. And as you see, that device is now gone and installed. Repeat this for any of the other devices that are there so that all of the drivers are installed properly. From there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to shut down the virtual machine. You'll notice that we shut down the virtual machine using the actions command within OpenShift Virtualization. This is because if you shut it down from within Windows itself, OpenShift Virtualization will think that the VM has died, and we don't want that. So by going in and selecting action stop, it'll shut it down cleanly, and that way we can go in and do our next step, which is going to be removing the boot disk and the driver's ISO. Once the VM is stopped, we can go over to Configuration, Storage, and we're going to go ahead and use the three little dots to detach both the installation CD as well as the Windows drivers disk. With those two disks gone, we can go ahead and power the VM back on. And what we're going to do now is run through and do a sysprep on this machine. We'll wait a minute for the machine to boot back up, and we'll go ahead and we'll log back into the Windows box as administrator. At this point, if you don't know what sysprep is used to take the Windows machine that has been customized and has a machine name and is specific to this virtual machine instance, and it'll go through and it'll do what's called a generalization, which puts it back to an out-of-box experience so that the next time that it boots, it'll prompt you again for a username and password. This means that we can make clones of it or copies of the VM and basically making it so that you can create Windows virtual machines from templates inside of OpenShift Virt. Go ahead and we're going to start up PowerShell. We're going to right click on the PowerShell icon and we're going to start as administrator so that we can run this command. We'll go ahead and type in the command needed to start sysprep, which is c:/Windows/system32/sysprep.exe. This will pop open a small GUI. We want to go ahead and make sure that OOBE is selected. We're going to select Generalize, and then for the shutdown, we're going to say Quit. Again, going back to a comment earlier, if you were to do shutdown or reboot, the machine will just restart, and we don't want that. We want to capture the system as it sits once the system has been generalized. Once the application quits, go ahead and hit Action Stop and wait for the virtual machine to shut down. At this point, we're going to update the template with our new disk image. So we're going to go over to Virtual Machines Templates, and we're going to find one of the Windows Server 2025, because that's what we're working with this time around, templates, and from the three dots, select Edit Boot Source. In the dialog box that opens, we'll go ahead and we're going to say Clone a PVC. We're going to select the project. In this case, it was that Win Server 25, which is where the original VM is that we want to go from. And we're going to select the initial build disk, which is the name of the disk that we created this from. And we're going to set the disk size to be 65 gig. At this point, you click OK, and in the background, OpenShift Virtualization is making a clone of the disk. This process can take some time, again, all depending on your storage amount and storage type. You can check on the status of the process by using the command that was shown here on the screen. Once the clone process finishes, it'll show 100%, and it'll also show in the UI now, you can see that for all Windows 2025 templates, we have a source available. So here, now we're just going to go ahead and just to show that the entire process worked, we're going to go ahead and create a Windows Server 2025 from template without using an ISO image. So we'll again go from to Virtualization, Virtual Machines, Create from Template. We'll scroll down, we'll find a Windows Server 2025 VM. For our disk source, you'll notice that we're keeping the disk source set to template default. We're going to go ahead and jump the disk size to 65 because that's what size we made the disk when we cloned it. We'll go ahead and give it a different name. That way we know that this came from a template. And we'll go ahead and click Quick Create Virtual Machine. At this point, OpenShift Virtualization is creating a copy of our template disk. This process, again, can be seen by using the command shown here. And the process could take a few minutes as it goes through, again, all depending on the amount of time that your storage or how good your storage is. Once the clone process is complete, we'll see the virtual machine start, as you can see here. And we can go ahead and we can select the web console, and we can actually see the machine booting up for the first time from our template. After a short amount of time, we'll see that it's going to come up, and you'll be presented with what's called the out-of-box experience. We can go ahead and click Next. We can go ahead and we'll be prompted for an administrator password. We can apply that administrator password, and then we can log into the VM. And what you can see there is that we did not have to go through and do an entire ISO install and all of the different steps. The machine is pre-built with all those additional agents and drivers installed, and we're ready to go. We could make multiple copies of this and use them all over again. That's all there is to doing this process if you want to build a Windows Server ISO image manually. If you check the link down below, there is also a link to the blog post where the commands that I used are listed, as well as all of the different steps, but just laid out in a blog type format. So if you don't really want to consume this as a video, you have an option there. Thanks for watching.